She won't flirt the way younger women do, she won't chase validation, and she definitely won't say what she's really evaluating. But when a woman desires an older man, she tests him quietly, with two questions that decide everything. As a female psychologist, I want you to understand something most men misunderstand about age and attraction. When a woman is drawn to an older man, it's rarely about looks, money, or status alone. Those may open the door, but they do not keep her emotionally engaged. What she's really drawn to is psychological gravity, the sense that this man is anchored, self-aware, and emotionally grounded. And instead of asking directly, she tests, not with games, with questions that sound innocent, casual, even playful. But beneath them, her nervous system is assessing whether you are someone she can emotionally lean into or someone she will eventually have to emotionally manage. The first test question sounds simple, but it's loaded. How do you usually handle stress or pressure? She's not asking about your schedule. She's not interested in your productivity system. She's watching how you relate to yourself when things go wrong. When you answer, she's scanning for emotional regulation. Do you externalize blame? Do you dramatize hardship? Do you minimize stress by pretending nothing affects you? Or do you acknowledge pressure calmly without collapsing or inflating your ego? Older men who fail this test often do so in opposite ways. Some overshare, turning the answer into a list of burdens. Others posture, presenting themselves as unaffected, invulnerable, and emotionally distant. Neither feels safe. What she's looking for is balance. A man who recognizes stress without being ruled by it. Someone who can say, I deal with it, I learn from it, and I don't bring chaos into the people around me. This tells her something crucial. Being close to you will feel stable. Women who desire older men are often seeking emotional leadership, not authority. Leadership means you don't need her to regulate you. You already know how. The second test question often comes later, and it sounds even more harmless. What are you actually looking for right now? This is not about labels. This is about congruence. She's listening for alignment between your words, your energy, and your life. Older men sometimes fail here by being vague to stay desirable, or overly definitive to appear in control. Both trigger uncertainty. If your answer feels rehearsed, she senses it. If it feels evasive, she feels unsafe. What she wants is clarity without pressure, honesty without neediness. When you answer calmly without selling yourself or trapping her in expectations, her nervous system relaxes because clarity signals maturity, and maturity is what separates an attractive older man from one who merely looks the part. Here's the truth most men don't hear. Don't. These questions are not tests you pass with words. They're tests you pass with state of being. She's watching how your body responds as much as what you say, your pace, your tone, your comfort with uncertainty. When you answer without trying to impress, without trying to control the outcome, you communicate something powerful. I'm already whole. And that's when desire deepens, quietly, decisively, and often without her ever explaining why. Once those two questions are asked, the real evaluation begins, not in what you say, but in how you live immediately after. Women don't test once and decide. They observe patterns. And when a woman desires an older man, she's especially sensitive to incongruence. Incongruence is when your words suggest maturity, but your behavior leaks emotional instability. This is the fastest way attraction dissolves. For example, if you speak calmly about handling stress but become reactive, impatient, or withdrawn over small disruptions, her nervous system notices, not consciously, biologically. And once her system detects inconsistency, desire weakens, not because you failed, but because safety disappeared. Women who seek older men are often done raising partners emotionally. They're not looking for someone perfect. They're looking for someone settled, someone whose presence lowers chaos rather than adds to it. This is why emotional pacing matters. How quickly do you react to uncertainty? How do you respond when plans change? How do you behave when she needs space? These moments answer the questions she never asks directly. Another subtle test appears in disagreement. She may challenge your opinion gently, not to argue, but to observe. Can you hold your ground without becoming rigid? Can you listen without collapsing? Can you disagree without turning it into dominance or retreat? This is a crucial distinction. Emotional leadership does not mean control. It means stability under pressure. Older men who attempt to win disagreements often fail this test. So do those who immediately concede to avoid tension. What she's looking for is calm self-respect, the ability to stay present, curious, and grounded even when perspectives differ. She also watches how you speak about your past. Not the events themselves, but the emotional tone. Are you resentful, bitter, detached, or reflective and integrated? When a man speaks about past relationships with emotional clarity rather than blame, it signals growth. It tells her you didn't just survive experience, you learned from it. This dramatically increases desire. Another overlooked evaluation point is how you treat boundaries, both hers and your own. Women drawn to older men are highly sensitive to boundary violations, even subtle ones. Pressure, impatience, or entitlement signal immaturity instantly. Respect, on the other hand, is deeply attractive. When you honor her pace without resentment, you communicate confidence. When you state your own boundaries without defensiveness, you show self-trust. This combination creates a sense of emotional polarity, safety paired with strength. And here's something most men don't expect. Silence is also part of the test. How you handle pauses, how you sit in quiet moments, whether you rush to fill space or allow stillness. Comfort with silence signals inner stability. It tells her you don't need constant stimulation to feel okay, that you're emotionally self-contained. Women who desire older men often desire this quality most of all. So understand this. Her attraction is not built through performance. It's built through presence, through the consistent experience of feeling emotionally steady around you. And once her nervous system relaxes into that steadiness, desire stops questioning and starts trusting. Because in the end, she's not testing your age. She's testing your emotional foundation, and only one of those truly matters. At this point, if her interest hasn't faded, it's because something deeper has begun to lock in. Desire shifts from curiosity to assessment of long-term emotional viability. And this is where many older men unknowingly lose the advantage they had. When a woman desires an older man, she is not just attracted to what he knows, she's attracted to what he doesn't react to. Emotional restraint is magnetic when it's genuine, not suppression, not indifference. Restraint that comes from self-trust. She watches how you respond when attention is uncertain. If she pulls back slightly, does your energy stay calm or does it tighten? Do you chase reassurance or do you remain steady without becoming cold? This moment reveals whether your confidence is internal or dependent on her response. Women test emotional independence here because dependence creates pressure, and pressure kills desire. Another subtle test appears when she shares vulnerability, not deep trauma, everyday vulnerability, stress, doubt, fatigue. She's observing whether you immediately try to fix or whether you can simply hold space. Older men often think wisdom means solutions, but emotional leadership means presence. If you can listen without correcting, without instructing, without making it about your experience, you communicate something rare. Your emotions are safe here. That safety amplifies desire more than charm ever could. She also pays attention to how you move through life outside of her, not your status, your rhythm. Do you have structure, purpose? Do you take care of your physical and mental health without obsession? This signals self-respect. A man who has a grounded routine communicates stability without words. And stability is deeply attractive to women seeking older partners because it reduces emotional uncertainty. Another critical test shows up around boundaries with others. How do you handle attention from other women? How do you speak about them? Respectful neutrality signals maturity. Bragging signals insecurity. Dismissiveness signals bitterness. Women are extremely sensitive to how men relate to the feminine when no benefit is at stake. She also evaluates how you recover from mistakes. Not whether you make them, everyone does, but whether you acknowledge them without defensiveness. Accountability without self-flagellation is powerful. It shows ego strength. Men who over-explain or justify lose ground here. Men who calmly take responsibility gain it. At this stage, desire becomes quieter but stronger. She doesn't need constant reassurance. She needs consistency. Your emotional tone becomes the deciding factor. And here's the truth most men resist. The more you trust the connection without gripping it, the more she leans in. Emotional looseness signals abundance, not of options, but of inner stability. When you don't rush outcomes, when you don't push timelines, when you don't demand clarity before it naturally forms, you create space for desire to deepen organically. Women drawn to older men are not looking for intensity. They are looking for relief. Relief from emotional chaos, relief from unpredictability, relief from being the most emotionally mature person in the room. If being with you feels like exhale instead of effort, desire doesn't need convincing. It settles. And once it settles, it's remarkably resilient. By the time a woman reaches this final stage of testing, she's no longer deciding whether she desires you. She's deciding whether that desire is safe to sustain. This is where the last evaluation happens, and it's entirely emotional. She watches how you handle power without using it. Age often brings experience, resources, and influence. She's observing whether you wield those things with humility or entitlement. True maturity doesn't announce itself. It shows up as restraint. When you don't leverage your position to impress or dominate, she feels respected. And respect is the soil where long-term desire grows. Another final test appears in uncertainty. Life is unpredictable. Plans shift. Energy changes. She's watching whether your sense of self remains intact when things don't go according to plan. Emotional resilience, not optimism, is what matters here. If you can adapt without frustration, recalibrate without blame, and stay grounded without withdrawal, you demonstrate something deeply attractive: emotional self-sufficiency. She also observes how you invite closeness without pressure. Do you create space for connection, or do you demand it? Do you allow intimacy to build, or do you rush it to reassure yourself? Women desiring older men are especially sensitive to pressure because it contradicts the very stability they're seeking. When closeness feels like an option rather than an obligation, desire flourishes. Another important signal is how you speak about commitment. Not whether you promise anything, but whether you talk about connection with clarity rather than fear. Men who avoid the topic entirely signal emotional unavailability. Men who rush it signal insecurity. Calm openness signals maturity. And finally, she watches how you handle her autonomy. Can she have opinions, boundaries, and independence without triggering your ego? Older men who feel threatened by autonomy lose attraction fast. Those who respect it become irresistible, because emotional confidence doesn't need control. So understand this clearly. The two questions she asks are not about information. They are about who you are under the surface. Everything that follows is her nervous system confirming or rejecting what it sensed. And here's the question I want you to answer honestly. And write your answer in the comments. When a woman tests you, do you try to impress her? Or do you simply remain grounded in who you already are? If this perspective gave you clarity, like the video, subscribe for deeper insights into female psychology and dating dynamics, and share this with a friend who might be unknowingly failing tests he didn't even realize were happening.